And good day. This is your Sensei Al Bob, your griot, and I am coming to you on our channel Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. And remember, this is all for your edification and entertainment. Don't believe anything I say. Check it out for yourself. I want to read you something from Simone de Beauvoir. Right? Everything was crushed by technology, made into a stranger world, imposing orthodoxy on our work, inspired force into stupidity, evil all across the form. The fact that we had increased our need rather than limited them within the construct of convenience. Yes, Run Ray, good to see you, buddy. We're talking about 400 years, celebration of slavery. Hey there, research. We're talking about the 400 years of slavery, and I'm talking here, reading a little bit from Simone de Beauvoir, one of my favorite philosophers. As long as fresh needs continue to be created, so new frustrations will come into being. When had the decline begun? The day knowledge was preferred over wisdom, and more usefulness and convenience over beauty. Only a moral revolution, not a social or political revolution, only a moral revolution would lead back to our lost truth. So, 400 years ago, today, they brought the first captured slaves from Africa into, the coastline. I think it was Virginia. And, but, since Christopher Columbus came here, North America was a slave state. What did Chris write in his, blog was, the indigenous people here, the natives, came and rescued us and brought us back and shared everything they had. They healed us, and they're generous, and they're beautiful, and they're smart, and they'll make great slaves. I could conquer this land with 20 men with muskets. Well, he came back 2 years later with 1,000 men, not only muskets, but cannon, and that's what Haiti became. And they killed 6 million people. Like, they wiped the whole indigenous crew out that didn't die from the diseases they brought or did, head off into the hills. And, when Europe showed up on the doorstep of North America after Christopher Columbus, there were 60 million native indigenous peoples, including North America, Central America, and South America. Some estimate 600 million. And in North America, there's only 800,000 indigenous folk left. Now, if that isn't a final solution, I don't know what is. And that was studied by the Nazis. When, they were fighting the English, they were still our buddies, and they came over looking for stuff. And good old Prescott Bush was happy to sell them, rarefied chemicals and ball bearings. But they sent the Nazi representative on a little tour of America of what he might else want. And when he was brought onto an Indian reservation, he saw how these people were kept in a prison, basically, a camp. And it's called a reservation. And, they said, he said, what is this? And the guy said, oh, this is our final solution. He goes, final solution? He goes, yeah, this is, how we're getting rid of the indigenous people. And a little light bulb went over his head, and he brought it back to his Fuhrer, and bingo, there you went. Now, sorry to say, they were not bought. Basically, they were kidnapped at first. And, for the first 50, 60 years. And basically, the Europeans when they went to get slaves from Africa, gave just like today. I mean, when the World Bank, go read that book, a great book. I was a hitman for, Wall Street. I forgot the name of it, central banking. But I mean, the World Bank goes into a country like Nigeria, perfect example. Said, oh, look, you got all these great, or, the Rhodesia and, Democratic Republic of the Congo. I mean, man, you should go. They still have a slave museum in Belgium. Where the king, up until recently, was like really proud of. And they actually went and got slaves from Africa and put them in the museum to live, so the Europeans could see how um, the natives lived. And but the scene is that the American public, we are those slaves. People don't realize that when you read the Constitution, we the people, all they were talking about was landed gentry, white men. When they were talking about freedom, inalienable rights, it was only for landed gentry, rich white men, not for their wives and their women and their daughters. No, not for folks who weren't free men. Meaning, most of the Europeans who came over in the first 300 years were, you know, um, bonded slaves. Meaning, those were the people who were, brought over. Uh, you know, and they talk a lot about the First Amendment says, and Congress will, you know, make no law against individual right of free speech. Well, that thing is all those inalienable rights start out. Congress will not. It says nothing about that state. So back in the day when there were 13 separate colonies, they all had colony religion, meaning each colony had their, just like, England today, the Church of England, and, Italy has the Vatican, and we have our own religion. It's called the Pentagon. So, and what, I'm a guy who looks at these long trends and I see that what's coming down the line. Um, First off, you have to realize everything is scripted. Nobody gets elected. No law gets passed without it being scripted by, the hidden hand, represented by the powers that shouldn't be, and their sock puppets of K Street. And we have the best legislators money can buy. So now I deal. I'm off in the deep green all by myself. You go back a few of these shows and you'll see me waking up one morning going, praying and showing you what I wake up to every morning. Well, that's what I get to see. Now, I live on $481 a month, but that's okay. I mean, like, Simone de Beauvoir talks about, we were given these needs. We don't need these things, or, sometimes it gets, when it gets close to my next Social Security check, it gets a little tight, but I just stay there. I got plenty of stuff I can eat off the ground. So that's a blessing. Now I know it'll change, and I've been really rich and not so rich and really rich, just in an economic sense. I'm always living like a millionaire. And I'm in a place where, I was just watching Miami's going underwater. Just with the tides, the streets are getting flooded. It's looking more like Venice. And because, the thing that Florida, guess what? Research, you're a research guy. What is Florida's biggest export? Do, 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 bing. The biggest export is sand for concrete, for silicon chips. And what is the three biggest, um, you know, creators of, um, you know,
Not rushing. I just didn't know if anybody was here. There you go. Hey, go get something to drink.
Good man. Um, you know, you know, the things that are, um, the three major things of global warming: concrete, cement, steel, petrochemicals, not transportation. You know, when I say petrochemicals, I'm talking about the whole oil industry, drilling, manufacturing, turning oil into all this plastic, gasoline. Those four things do more to destroy our environment than anything else. And one of the largest consumers of sand is glass. And if we only recycled glass, because if you take that glass bottle and crush it up into dust, then melt it down, glass is like water. It's a solid fluid. But to turn sand into glass takes a good deal of energy. To take that glass and turn it into another glass bottle, not a tenth of the energy. So back in World War II, we were recycling 89% of everything, right? 70% of the American public was eating out of their backyard garden. How come we didn't stick to that? Hey, buddy. No, he's gone. Um, so that's where we're at. We're at this place. Thank you, darling. Yeah, yeah. And so, what is the new, the new moral revolution? What's that supposed to look like? Why do you think I talk about
socialism?
Why do you think I talk about, um, the alternative aesthetic? So come on, let's talk about the alternative aesthetic. We got one person, one thumb up, 12 minutes into it. So what do you think? Energy production. Yeah, that's petrochemicals. You know. But the number one is concrete. Number two, cement, steel, and petrochemicals. Everything else goes into another category that's larger, but that just shows how much concrete we use. We consume over 20 billion gigatons of concrete in the world. Yep, drugs. And right today, Johnson is in front of a judge going on about the OxyContin you know thing. And where I live here, the people here are dying of that. Plus, you got to look at all these industries. Donnie, oh, he loves coal. Well, he doesn't love the coal miners because he has gotten rid of whatever control. The coal is going down, especially underground coal. So they have to cut through more rock. Black lung isn't so much the coal killing them, it's the silicate. It's all of that crystalline rock that they have to cut through to get to another coal seam. And, back in, 30 years ago, you know, they were saying, hey, look at what's going on. And they nailed it. Right now, we are at the highest level of coal miners dying from black lung. And it's so bad, these guys have it so bad that they're choking to death. They can get a breath. And as they're like choking, they have a heart attack. And then the coal company says, oh, he didn't die of black lung. He died of a heart attack. I mean, we need a moral revolution, not a social or political revolution, because we've had enough of those. And look where we go. Our Yep. And all of those drugs, they're legal. I mean, the FDA okayed them. I remember when they were coming out in 1991, and I was on a little think tank talking about this, and they were talking about the most successful social drug that was being used on the public was fluoride. And there was, all these guys had done all this study that came from the Nazis showing And people go, how did that Adolf Hitler convince those people that because they were some of the best educated, smartest. They had the strongest democracy, the Weimar Republic in Europe, and then they got Adolf Hitler. And that's because the powers that shouldn't be there had control of their water systems and were dumping megatons of fluoride into the water. And then once the Nazis got in power, they burnt the Reichstag, which was their 9/11, and they brought in a act called, the Patriot Act. Where do you think we got the idea from? Yep. And it doesn't seem to, help the UK's guys' teeth. How could fluoride that you drink help your teeth? Maybe if you brush your teeth and it's slathering up in the teeth. Maybe. But drinking it goes into your blood system. It goes through all your organs. And then it goes in, then it maybe gets to your teeth. No, sorry. I try not to be a truther channel and I say, hey, this is just for entertainment's sake. Because the powers that shouldn't be allow all of this to go on because there's such a myriad of this, and anyone who comes close to being pretty focused on what they're saying, they get taken down, right? So I'm here just for your entertainment. Neurotoxins, yep, bone corridor, yep. And so the only thing that can heal this is a spiritual revolution, because that cuts past all our neurology, past our blood, because this is just a bag of water. This is just an avatar. Now it affects our experience, between that sandbox out there and our higher consciousness. This is the medium between it. And back in the day when the Roman Empire fell, and in a weekend they developed the Holy Roman Empire, where they embraced Christianity, and I'll look on the Gmail. But gang, I'm out here in the hinterlands, and I got to travel between 10 and 30 miles to go online, and sometimes, like this place is the closest place to me. That's why I come to it a lot. Plus, they have pretty good food. I have a nice breakfast first and look at what's going on. But somehow Gmail doesn't like to work that well here. I don't know why, but so I'll have to go back and look at it. And I have to look at everything because a number of things like printer or Pinter or whatever, there are a lot of things that have gotten into my Gmail. So 90% of my Gmail is like advertisements. So no, I'm not in Roanoke. No, I'm in the deep green, which is right in the squirrely spot between Tennessee, West Virginia, and North Carolina. I mean, just right in there. I'm right off this beautiful. Right, I'm like 40 miles from Johnson City, Tennessee, 48 miles to Bristol, Tennessee, and Bristol, Tennessee is quite interesting because the right down the main road, this side of Bristol is Virginia, and this side is Tennessee, and it's kind of like North and free Ireland. And then I'm about 22 miles to Boone, North Carolina. So I'm in, and the way the lines go, and if I were to fly straight north from where I am, I'm about 62 miles to West Virginia. So I'm right in that little pointy end, west pointy end of Tennessee. And so it's a very interesting thing. There's a ton of, and my Sawtooth Mountain Range is right between the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains. I mean, I am like this other little mountain range that's between these two big mountain ranges. So I get all of this energetics like you cannot believe. Indians come walking through. I mean, in a dimensional. I mean, I get all this dimensional energy, and that's why I bought this place. And that's why no one wants to live there because they get freaked out by the things that go bump in the night. Me, I just sit out there with my little heart drum and have a fire and beat it, and everybody sits around the drums. And I think that's one reason why, a few people come to visit and they can't even spend an evening here. It's like, I'm in the mountains, gang. Like I said, I'm right between the Appalachian and the the Smokies, and I'm in this other mountain range that has been worn down, and it's been worn down more or less and that's why meth is so predominant. Because you look at everybody, and they got meth teeth. They got these little sawtooth teeth, and that's the mountains we live in. And there's water all around. There's a big lake that its coastline is 1,200 miles all the way around because they just floated up these Sawtooth Mountains, right? And flooded these people out. They didn't care. So these people had to be like me, live in the hills under tarps, tar paper shacks, and everybody is hurt themselves because it's hard living. I mean, I have to go and fill up buckets of water. I have no real indoor plumbing, and but as I read from Miss Moldavalier, when you don't have these conveniences, your life becomes more real. You see the true beauty. Go back and look at it's about 2 or 3 shows back. It's about 3 minutes. It's me waking up, and I'm just like showing you what I wake up to every morning, and so I have all this stuff going on in my body. Diabetes, neuropathy, Charcot legs, and a whole bunch of other things where when I go to sleep, your autonomic system kind of unplugs because if you were dreaming about running down the hill, you'd be running down the hill. So everything that I set up in a meditative state kind of goes away because it doesn't have to be there. But when I wake up to like screaming pain every morning, screaming pain. And so when I was at the school with John and he would go on about how miserable he was, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, all you have to do is lose some weight. Yeah, well, I am losing weight because I have $58 a month to spend on food, So, you want to lose weight, don't eat anything. Plus, where my site is, I have to go up one hill, down another hill, one up hill, just to go over to this shack, down this hill, over to that hill, over to this hill, to go to this shack, and then go over here to where I have my tarps and my hammock and my boxes of books. And then I go over to this shack where I have my bed set up. So I have to walk maybe 4 football fields every day, up and down hills, up and down, up and down, up and down. So that's like, a stair stepper, right? So it's keeping me in pretty good shape. Now, when it gets really cold, this is the mountains. So after December 10th, it starts to get cold here. After the 2nd of November, it starts to snow here. Now, you might find me. You ever see with Bill Murray, the Scrooge she did? That's a really great Scrooge. Anyway, there's this homeless guy that he kind of treats really bad, and then he finds him along one of his dreamscapes, frozen to a grid, right? And he's like frozen. I mean, like frozen. And that's how I will be, which will be fine by me. That's not a bad way to die, because you just kind of go to sleep and then you freeze to death. Now, if one of you wants to invite me to your hacienda in Florida, the Caribbean, as long as it's the American Samoa or someplace, I'll be fine. Otherwise, pretty much, because, I can't really trust John Birmingham because this is a 36th time. Every time he throws me out, he basically snaps and he goes into screaming rage. Get out now! No! 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 That's pretty hard to just get in the car and drive away. Be a lot easier. Well, you're making me anxious. Can you maybe in a day or two you should leave? That would be fine, and I could plan but not so much. So again, the whole idea of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different outcome. Well, I kind of do that, but I don't. Each of those times that John threw me out of the school, after the first one, which I was like really surprised, especially that he never acted that way, and angry and violent and mean and cruel. Um, and he feels that that's the only way he can act to protect himself. I think that's the natural way of life. Well, in reality, sorry, that's not how animals act. That isn't the survival of the fittest. If you ever watch any of those shows on the Nature Channel, everyone's hanging around, the water hole because, out there in the savannah, that's the only water. And there's 3 or 4 big trees and everybody's hanging in the shade. And soon as the lions are over here, the giraffes are over here, the wildebeest are over here, the zebras here. Everybody's around there, staying in the shade, drinking a little water, taking it easy. And there's grass growing around that, so the guys who eat grass are eating the grass. They don't eat all the grass. They just eat a little bit of the grass. They know what to like. If you ever taken care of bees, you shouldn't take all of the bees, honey. You only take half of it. When I took care of bees, I'd only take a quarter of it because I didn't have a hive. I lived on a piece of property that had a really couple of major beehives and trees. And basically the way it works is the upper chunks are, the lower chunks are where everybody hangs out, there's the queens there, and the upper chunks is like the storehouse, the warehouse. And it's usually the least protected, the most easily accessible. And if you just kind of make a little hole there, and just take a little bit of honey out. And I used to have this really nice scooper, like a little metal cup with a long arm, and I would just kind of scoop up one little cup of honey and just walk away. I might just come in, scoop it, walk away. I never even got a fire or a smoker going. Sometimes I'd like some sage, and that was smoke enough for me. Just bless it and go on. And when I lived there, and that was in Ithaca, not Ithaca, that was up there. Well, it was called the Ithaca Gathering, but it was really near Watkins Glen. It was right overlooking Seneca Lake, and Ithaca was back there where Ithaca Lake was, the Finger Lakes. Seneca was most west. And the girls were over there, up against Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney and George H. and Ronald Reagan, who was sending the Persian missiles to Europe, planning for World War III. And they're always planning for World War III because they want World War III. It's a lot of money to be made in World War III. Now, we've had World War III since World War II, If you ever watched the movie with Donald Sutherland as the colonel who's telling the New Orleans district attorney what the story was about JFK, the movie JFK, and the district attorney comes to Washington to meet this colonel, and Donald Sutherland plays him, right? Tall guy in a suit, military haircut, but he's not in his uniform, and he tells him the story of eternal war, and that during World War II, he was, military air command's transportation guy. He was flying stuff all over the place. And then, after they won in Europe, he was transferred to Asia, where he started to, stockpile stuff to go invade Japan before the atomic bombs. And then the bombs came, and Japan, sued for peace, but they had all these weapons all stockpiled. And he asked his, superior, so where should I send these weapons? And he says, well, we're going to send them first to North Korea. Then we're going to send them to North Vietnam. And those things didn't even exist yet. And North Korea was the big industrial neck of the woods. It's where the rich people lived. All the weapons were going there. Same with Vietnam. And that's where the French, had their industries, their rubber plantations. And anyway, so they were planning for the next wars. And they were arming the communists. So, oh yeah, something's coming. That's for sure. I keep doing this. I keep writing my little white papers. I keep going to those colleges, trying to inform people. And yes, I may. What would be really nice is if ETSU said, Al, you're the kind of guy we need here. We're just going to make a little place where you can lecture, and you'll be part of our, humanities program, and you can just give these lectures and have, you can be like Socrates here at ETSU. We'll give you, $100 a class. We'll find you a place that you can be like a dorm mother, and that'll be fine. That would be the utmost greatest thing. Then I'd be close to pretty good medicine. I'd have a little more spending money. I could keep my Social Security. I could eat in the, cafeteria. That would be, that's what I'm putting out there. Every time I say, Father, bless me indeed, increase my territory, that I put your hand on my shoulder, shoulder, and keep me away from harm and evil. So I do only good. So I'm already in the mountains, surrounded by water. I am surrounded, like I said, this lake has a 1,200-mile coast, right? Because they flooded all these mountains. It's really beautiful. And this summer had been more tourists here, kayaking and fishing and all that. And I thought, oh, well, I'm going to have to find a new place. This is going to be gentrified. So everybody and his brothers put their property on sale, but no one's buying, obviously, because people go, oh, why should I buy something when I can just visit it? So, which is fine by me. So come on, ETSU, come and get me. I'll be happy to be your grandpa. Going into App State and ETSU, I talked to a lot of people there, and again, Simone de Beauvoir's statement about convenience and beauty.
A little warm up?
Yeah, a little warm up. So, have you ladies made up your mind for lunch?
Oh, we've got
The tacos.
we've got tacos and taco salad. We have some barbecue. We have green beans, green beans and soup beans and cabbage. We bought some cabbage.
Ooh,
Mashed potatoes. And we have a couple of servings of the macaroni and cheese and no pork.
right. Okay. Lunch isn't quite ready, but that has, started me salivating.
Thinking about what you
Before the crowd starts really shuffling, or after, I will. And I'm thinking of the barbecue, the cabbage, and the mashed potatoes.
and some
Mashed potatoes.
mashed potatoes. You want gravy?
Oh yes, but not yet.
Okay.
I'm still digesting breakfast. So that's how I go. And I'll be able to get out of here for under $12. So, when you only have $58, well, of course I have $481, because they take almost $200 from my Social Security, my Medicare, because this state didn't join the Medicaid. I get Medicare, but there's that 20% that it doesn't pay for. I don't even use it, but they still want to take it, so the state takes it. So, um, and there's this, the coal miners have gotten such a bad rift, and it's so sad. Donald Trump, I mean, he totally played them. Um, because what he should have really said, forget about bringing a business back. I'm going to make sure that you get uh, your medical taken care of. I'm going to make sure that the people who are working, because the average time in a coal mine before you get, you know, really bad black lung fostered by cutting through, stone, um, is 12 years. Some people get it within 3 years. This one guy told me, as soon as you sign on, you go down that hole, you sign your death warrant. Because virtually everybody I know around here who is part of a coal mine, they're either dead, and you know what's upsetting is that their grandfather died of black lung, their father died of black lung, all their uncles and older brothers died of black lung, and they still went there because it was the only place they could get paid 35 to 50 bucks, 60 bucks an hour, so they could buy that bass boat. Go straight to Simone de Beauvier's, And when you go straight up, here they're deep. They had a lot of little deep coal mines. And the TVA was, paid for it. Because they not only had dammed everything up for hydropower, they were the biggest producers of coal fire. Um, and they destroyed so much land by coal ash dispersal, which they'd have these big ponds and just, oops, oh, we had a mistake. Oh, and it would just go and wipe out whole sections of forests, Because coal ash is, when you burn coal, the only thing left are these super duper heavy metals and carcinogens. So this is what we're looking at, gang. And it's not going to be, so over at App State, through all these, we're working towards sustainability. What, sustaining what we have already? No. I was at this one meeting of all these kids who were the anti-pipeline guys, and and it was quite interesting because the head gas guy said, "Hey, listen, what do you really want? By what you're doing, do you really want the end of oil and gas?" And every one of those kids said, "Oh no, we just want to make it sustainable." What? You nuts? Basically they were saying, "Oh no, we still want to be driving around in our cars. We still want our house heated. We still want to turn that thing in gas, come up in our stove and our hot water heater. No, we don't want to get rid of. No, I like my comfortable. I just don't want you to put that pipeline down through my neighborhood so I can see that big scar. Oh, that's terrible." No. And that is the essence of sustainability. And because back in the 60s, late 60s, when I was at Cooper Union, I was part of alternative technology department they had there. And then when I went off and worked in the nuclear industry in New Mexico and worked in grants in the mining of it. And then I worked in Los Alamos and San Diego and Kirkland Air Force Base. So I came back and told my, environmental friends, hey, forget this. The real issue is not only nuclear power, but nuclear weapons. And we're going to be in, our biggest danger is nuclear war, which we still are in. These morons want to have another, arms race because it makes them a lot of money. It's already done, and that's why it's worse. I mean, I've always been a Tennessee citizen, so I just go to, Roanoke because I had my warehouse there, and I would spend, 2 months there. And when I got really sick and got stuck at the top of the mountain at the school, I wired myself into, because there's this thing called Carillion in Roanoke. It's like, virtually half the people employed in Roanoke work for Carillion. So they got thousands of doctors, amazing equipment. And what I did was I went to their system and I found 5 doctors who would be smart enough and care enough to take care of me. Instead of the first doctor who dealt with my diabetes, gave me, wanted to put me on prednisone and, what's the standard drug? Starts with A. And anyway, my body couldn't stand it. So I went online and looked at it and said, "Oh, there's a certain group of people who this medicine will kill." I said, "Hey, look, doc, read this." He goes, I don't have time to read that. I'm your doctor. You're going to do what I tell you to do." And I said, "Good. I'll find another doctor," which I did. Metformin, right? And so, it took me 5 doctors to find the one doctor who will take care of me. So this guy's been taking care of me for the last 4 years, and because I take care of him, you know, he runs a whole department there, and I read everyone's palms and listen to everyone's problems, and I'm much better than HR. So he slides me in there under the radar and takes care of me. Right? And I have an endocrinologist who does that. I have a bone doctor who does that. I have a podiatrist who does that, and I have an eye doctor who does. So I don't have to. They slide me under because I do something more valuable and worth more than. So that's why. So, but Tennessee is it's a beautiful state, but it really is a state for the rich. Everybody else is a slave here, and so. Meaning back when I first signed into Social Security, I was getting almost $700, $800. But when I moved here, I get $451 after the state of Tennessee takes all their money and then doesn't really do anything. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. $481 a month. I can live on that. But could you? I mean, go back to the statement I read from Simone de Beauvoir, When had the decision begun? The day knowledge was preferred to wisdom, and more usefulness, more, the convenience was better than beauty. Only a moral revolution, not a social or political revolution, only a moral revolution will lead man back to the truth of love's co-creation. And I've been reading a lot of, I've got all the time in the world to read, so I've been reading all my philosophy books. I've been reading, you know, Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, and then everybody else. And what's interesting, and the guys before those, the Greek guys, there were these 2 guys. One started with N, one started with P. I can't pronounce their names. His Royal Doodliness. Is that you picked up the dude? Oh, I like that. Exclusively smoke 28% or higher. I wish I did. No, I don't smoke anything. I'm pretty much a purist these days because I got no cash. So I, drink water, and when I come here, they give me I float away in coffee, and it's royal doodliness. I like that. Oh, anyway, well, good to have you aboard, doodliness. Let's see. Usually, especially a long name like that. What's the nickname? Royal. Royal. We have a guy. It's got a big long thing, and then 09. So I just call him. Actually, it's 009. I just call him 09. So fish, I call fish. Sunray. It's either sun or ray. So royal. Your Highness. How about that? And it's his royal. Why is it his? Isn't that a little sexist? Why isn't her Royal Highness? Right? Oh, dudeliness. Okay, his royal dudeliness. Okay, okay. See, I take everything apart. That's kind of what I do. That's part of my motif. I deconstruct everything. That's when you're a shamanic psychosocial forensic anthropologist, anthropologic alchemist. That forensic is you take it apart, you pull the threads apart. So that's kind of what I do. Anyway, so back to the question. It's only been 43 minutes and no one has said anything about it. And this is the question of this chat. What is going to be that moral revolution? What should be pursued as the only, the alternative aesthetic? Our present aesthetic is profit, right? So backed up by the two, um, you know, um, hegemonic structural dogmas of belief and convenience. That's what's ruling. Believe, I believe in this so much, I'll kill you. You know, the fact that people can strap on, that can kill other people because of the dogma that they hear. I mean, I've read every holy book, not every holy book, because I'm sure there's some out there I haven't read, but the main ones. I've read the Old Testament, the New Testament. I've read the Quran. I've read the Vedas. I've read the teachings of Confucius, and a number of others, right? And I've been rereading all the philosopher books I got. And the thing I see in the last 6,000 years, all of this belief has just been a business plan, a way to, it's like giving everyone fluoride. And when you read, um, I was blessed to be able to read the original writings of the Prophet Muhammad, bless his name, where when he was out there in the desert and this vision came to him, it was not like God said, go off and do this, but he saw what it was. And he came down off that hill and he was like, I'm nuts, He wanted to kill himself right then and there because he knew it was going to be a long haul, but he came from an extraordinarily wealthy family. So he kind of kept it on the down low, and then he kept going up there and getting more visions, and then he started writing, and then he started leading by example. That's why it's, praise the Prophet Muhammad, because he led by example. He just didn't write it in a book like Augustine, He led by example. People go, wow, look at this guy. He's got lots of money, and yet and so over a 10, 15-year period, he kind of won over his constituency, his neighborhood. And at a certain point, it's like me, it's an acquired taste. He got to a place where people started disagreeing. I wanted the Muhammad really said this. No, he said that. No, he said this. No. So he hit the road, went on the road. And he didn't have the unlimited backing of his, familia fortune. So he had to, like John says, how am I going to pay my bills? So he started making it a religion. And then he got followers who were businessmen and started making Islam what it is today. But still, the foundation of Islam is, anyone got the name? What is the foundation of Islam? Can anyone tell me? Can anyone? Anyone there? Hmm? Yo, Royal, how about you? Fish, anybody? Okay. Do 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 do. Well, the bedrock of Islam. Yep, you got it. Love's co-creation or hospitality. Like the four pillars or something. They all have four pillars or something. Because they're all wanting to be at the table. Anyway, um, So that's, so how did it go from, you know, the Prophet Muhammad, praise be his name's vision, and then, love's co-creation and hospitality to strapping on a suicide vest? Why? Because people believe in these words. These words have powers. Look at the words coming out of, you know, uh, Donnie Chump's mouth. No, he scripted. He can't read the teleprompter, but somebody drilled a hole in that boy's head and put a couple of wires in there, and he's getting it straight on. That's why he's like, blah, 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 blah. He's like 1 second assist, 1 second sense, bing, 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 bing. He's like almost like gang pong, bing, pong, bing, pong. That's Donnie Chump. And he's going to be remembered as the guy who killed the white race. Because everything has a unexpected consequence. And the only person who has a long enough playlist of this is the hidden hand. And one of the 4 pillars of the hidden hand is the Khazarian mob, right? Go Google that one, Khazarian mob, and you will see that it was a group of basically pirates that put themselves up. They were like roaming tribe of misfits, right? And they, that one, what's the one where the little guy gets a magic word, open sesame or whatever, and goes and steals the pirates' money? Those guys basically were on the Silk Trail, and it had always been there, from Asia to Europe. And they were always going up and down, right? And so, Alexander was the first guy to, come across that, So, and why he conquered everything so the way he did was he was schooled by Socrates, and he had this, Socratic way of looking at things, taking it apart and getting down to, okay, what do I need to conquer? Okay, it's not like kill everyone. It's like to go in and say, listen, we're going to make it better for you, So, the Khazarian mob was this group that they were like flies eating shit. They were always buzzing around these empires, taking advantage of the stuff people dropped, right? And so they've been doing it for hundreds, almost 1,000 years, and they got bigger and bigger. And so they would take a little, not only the droppings of these empires, but a little bit of their philosophies. And one of them was this idea of a caliphate, meaning you kind of ran a neck of the woods. And basically what they do is they would cruise into a place that was weak enough to be taken over, and they would take them over. And they would run it kind of like a government. But they, ISIS is a perfect example. They would cruise in there, and if you didn't do it, they would take everything they could take. And if you didn't, just roll over and take it in the butt, then they'd kill you. And first kill your kids, and then your wife, and then grandma, and the dog, and then you. So that was the Khazarian nation. Right? So they were bouncing around, making their little caliphs along the Silk Road. And one, I don't know, maybe about 400 to 600 AD, they kind of parked too close to the road, to the Tsar. And the Tsar at that time probably had a better, and that's why you have Eastern Christianity. He was strong enough to have his own thing going on. So he basically went down and took his warriors and put his foot on their throat and said, listen, you either do what I say or else. Now, what I'm saying is, A, you need to either be Christian, Muslim, or Jewish. I don't care which, just pick one, because then we can blame those guys. But you are too close to our business, and you are threatening our people that we make money off. I mean, we're criminals too, but you're getting in our face. So, buddies, we're just going to wipe you out unless you move a little further down the road and pick one of these. So they did. They picked to be the Anunnaki Jew. the hidden, the mystery tribe. You know, the guys that nobody really goes for, right? And so when the Nazis showed up, they were looking for the ultra white race. The Anunnaki were the guys who they found, you know, and they became the Zionists, and that's what, you know. You go. I suggest everyone to go to Israel without a preconceived notion of what it is, and talk to everyone. Go to all those kibbutzes. Go to the center of Israel. It's really a pretty place. Really nice. Take a vacation. Very safe. Very comfy. Very pleasant. But the Jewish citizen, the average Jewish citizen, they are kind of a democracy, kind of like we are. I mean, they are very close to what we are, and they have the freedom to blab all they want in their own country. But if they do anything politically, socially, economically that threatens Zionism, and and you go look at the history when Israel, the Balfour Convention, you know, it was like a teeny thing, you know, all of the people who live on the edges now, we're the center, and all of their land has been taken, you know. So I will come back, you know. So Royal, describe us to edify the four people who are here, what the 5 pillars are. Okay, I'm gonna just be right back. Ooh. Okay, Caroline, you can put my orders through. Yeah, okay. I'm back. So, Royal, did you edify the crowd? Yep, fasting during the month of Ramadan. Yep. Let's see. As far as I'm aware, there are 5 things Muslims are required to do, right? Sincerely receiving the Muslim profession of faith. Yep. You see the word? Profession of faith, not belief, faith. Meaning it's this uh, personal kind of connection, not coming through, you know, any mister, you know. Proclaiming the ritual of prayer in the proper way 5 times each day. Exactly. Wouldn't you? I would love to see Christians pray 5 times a day the way Muslims do. In my mind, you know, I lived in North Africa, and when the call for prayers would come, I'm a prayerful guy. I would go, you know, dressed like this, right? And I remember the first time I went in there and said that, and I followed what they did, and I prayed. Now I didn't, you know, say the prayers they were saying, but I was still praying. And I remember, You know, the what do they call the head guy starts with anyway. You know, the hierarchy of that um, ashram or temple or church or uh, what they call their prayerful place. Um, came over and said, "So who are you? What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm a guy coming to prayer." She goes, "What religion?" I said, "Well, my faith lies in love's co-creation. So, Allah is that. So, and so is Jesus." And they go, "Yo, we like Jesus too. We just don't call him God." I said, "Yeah, me neither. I don't call anybody God." And so they said, "We like you. Sure, come any day. Wear those funny shirts, not a problem. Wear whatever funny hat you want to wear, not a problem. And the way that you respect us and share with us, And they said, "So we're going to go to lunch. You want to go to lunch?" And I said, "Sure." So we went off in the back of their little place where they had a very nice little place for the community, meaning it wasn't just a place to pray, but they had if you needed something, you could go back there and they would help you out as best they could. You need a place to stay, they put you up. You needed a meal, they give you a meal. And it was really one of the nicer, after that point, and I did other funny things that everyone just got a hoot out of, in that I would do the stupidest things because I didn't understand. And then they would laugh at it, not laugh at me, but laugh at that gesture. And I would say, "Okay, what did I do wrong now?" And they'd explain it. I go, "Oh." And, I would accept the fact that I was a moron. I'm not a total moron. I'm just kind of a moron, kind of the time. And they really, and the fact that I would listen more than talk. And they said, "A European to us." I said, "Well, I'm from New York." And they go, "Oh." It was like another land. New York City. I'm from Manhattan. "Oh, okay. Now we understand, Let's see, the other one, praying, alms. Yep, alms, tax benefits, poor. Yep, needy. Yep. I'd like to see some Catholic churches doing that instead of, buying themselves, you know, fancy cars and bigger houses, fasting during during Ramadan. They got rid of that. We had that. Lent, we kind of gave that up. Uh, and pilgrimage to Mecca. And I went to Mecca. That was not during the time of the Hajj, but I went to both, you know, um, the holy place in Israel and the holy place in um, Iraq and the holy place in Saudi Arabia. You know? And again, my whole travels during the East was when I was living in Sweden, and I would get on an airplane where I would get a Swedish visa, and I had my Swedish international driver's license, which worked fine. Those two documents worked fine as a passport. I had my American passport, but I never showed that. Going to customs, I would just get off the airplane, show them the visa, they would stamp it. Going through customs, I would uh, give them my international air, along with a visa, and it's been stamped there, okay, stamped there. And all of those countries which are considered, the terrible, Iraq was terrible, Syria terrible, Libya terrible, Iran terrible. Well, they weren't terrible. They weren't any worse than New York City, meaning everyone was busily going along with their life. They had political dynamics going on that if you just kind of kept your head down and didn't talk against it, they left you alone. I mean, I remember being in Baghdad, middle of the night, and a bus showed up and took me to the outskirts, and you couldn't get a bus in New York City to do that. And where I was staying wasn't on the bus route, but since he was going to here, and I was going over there, and I was the only guy, um, on the bus. He turns over to me and he says, and forgot what he was speaking, but not English. And I'd been there long enough to kind of get his gist, and I said the name of where I was going. He goes, "Oh," and he goes, "Speak English?" I said, "Yes." "Can I speak English to you?" And I said, "Sure." So he goes, "Move up here." So we sat, we talked. He goes, "I love to practice my English. I listen to Radio Free Europe, blah, blah, blah." He goes, "It's so funny. They have no idea what's going on in the world." I said, "Well, it's called propaganda for a reason." And we, so he went an hour out of his way to drop me off. Like, he took that bus right to where I was staying because he liked talking to me. And, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. He had, what was he going to do? Go to back where he was going to start from. So he's a little late. No one's going to be waiting for him. So he went an hour out of his way. We talked about everything you could think about. We had the greatest of times, and he became a friend. And I would go. He goes, "I run this bus line, right? And I'm at the stop I picked you up at, you know, 3 in the afternoon, 7 at night, and 2 in the morning. And you want to get on the bus, later in the day, I'll take you to my house and you can stay and meet my family and we'll have dinner." And I get, I just drive because it's a long bus line. I drive it one day and the next day I get off and drive the next day. So I said, "Fine, that sounds great." So I met a lot of people like that because I was respectful of what they believed in, what their traditions were, what their culture was. They loved me for that. I was like, not an oddity, but not what they were used to of a white Anglo-Saxon person from America. They kept saying, "You're not from America." I said, "No, I'm from New York City." "Oh, yes, now we understand. My cousin is there now, driving a cab." So, tell you the story of my pilgrimage to Mecca. It might take too long because it was like I was at some place staying with some people. He was a professor, and I was sent to study something. And he goes, "It's Ramadan, and I signed up to go to on the pilgrimage, and I was going to take um, my wife's father, but he isn't feeling well. He can't go. But so we have one slot. We could take somebody."
She's bringing you barbecue sauce,
Okay, good.
mustard, and mayonnaise.
Yep.
Got a little piece off to the side.
Oh, you're the best, baby.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Lunch. Whoa. So anyway, it's been an hour and 8 minutes, and I'm going to have lunch. Do you remember what was the TV show? Thank you, sweetie.
You're welcome. Need anything else right now?
No, I think we're good.
Alrighty.
Yum, yum. Um, Mashed potatoes. Good mashed potatoes. You can always tell a good chef by how they make the mashed potatoes. My next favorite thing is cabbage. Yep, well, you can. Pull up the side of the road, pull up your sandwich bag, and just have lunch with. Anyway, back to yeah. They had this thing on TV, Romper Room, and you used to have lunch with Mrs. Betty.
Okay.
So Let's hear from you guys. Royal, what do you think of the alternative perspective? You have at least a historical sense of the five pillars of Islam, which is a pretty good place to start because, I would love to see Christians be as Christian as Muslims. Islam, people who are Muslims are basically Christians on steroids. Now, that's an interesting statement that I just made. And when I talk to my Islam friends, they first kind of go, See, the thing about Islam is because of the Khazarian mob, both Israel, there's a difference between the Jewish nation of the tribes and the Hebrews. And the Jewish nation, where did the term Jew came from? When the Hebrews showed up in Europe, they weren't allowed to own property, hold office, but they showed up with bling. And that bling, they lent, to the kings who were fighting wars.
A little more coffee?
A glass of ice with a little coffee in it and a straw.
Okay.
So that's the difference between Hebrews, the 12 tribes that Moses led, and the Jews. Well, they were more a business plan, just like Catholicism is a business plan of the Christians. And the Christians, really were, they called Jesus, a Nazarene. Well, it's not like he came from that cul-de-sac of Nazareth over there. No, it was a type of person who came from out of the hinterlands, who brought these new ideas. And he wasn't the first. There were plenty of other guys out there doing miracles. John the Baptist is a good example. But when Jesus came and met the Baptist, and he washed the Baptist's feet, so when John the Baptist said, "Okay, you're the real deal. Thank you, Caroline. Can I have a straw?
Uh-huh.
Iced coffee. Yum, yum." Hi, here, sweetie. So, here we go. Yeah, but who attacked who first, right? And again, what I want to know is what words cause children to strap, suicide vests, and all of this that's going on in Afghanistan. That wedding that got blown up. There's only one true love that I know, and that is mother love. And I see people. One of the things I love about living in this little community, it's not even a community, near the backwater of a county, right in the corner, where I am within 3 different counties, quarter mile. And so that's why we have no medical care, no police, no bite. Because, hey, there's no 911 calls, there's no phone. And nobody wants to come to save the day here. But everyone, because we're semi-isolated in a way, everyone has an open mind here. And everyone screws up, so nobody is that judgmental about each other. The only people who are semi-judgmental are the foreigners, the folks, the tourists who come in and, oh wow, I can buy this for nothing. I have a friend across the street, has a nice little townhouse, bought it for nothing, and he lives in D.C. And when he first came, he loves to fish, so it wasn't really a big ride for him. And now that he's getting older, so he's going to sell it. And I said, why are you going to sell this place? No, I don't really use it that much. And I said, yeah, but when you do, you have a really great time. Yeah. And I said, how long do you have it for sale? He said, oh, about last 8 months. I said, no one's going to buy it. Oh, yeah, I don't know. But that's kind of the deal. He's got a little bit of heaven. Now me, I'm not going, I'll go places. I have things to visit, people to see, stuff like that. But I'm never really going to sell that property. I already kind of turned it over to my lawyer. I really don't own anything. So no one can take anything from me. But it is what it is. Yeah. And Christianity, this country was more a Methodist and Protestant country, and Catholics were demonized until the 1950s. I mean, when Kennedy ran for president, it was, I'm our first Catholic president. That was almost a bigger deal than Obama. So, that's the real deal. We have to get away from these titles that everyone kind of puts everyone under. And so, I have to see doctors and go in hospitals and do a lot of that. And whatever safety net is left in this country, because Bill Clinton pretty much did away with it, you have to go and go through the process like every 6 months or so. Like nothing changes for me, so why do I have to redo it again? Basically, by law, those folks have to help me. So they just want to hear, fill this form out. I said, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Under Article 43-444, you have to sit down on my table over there and go through it. Every place I have to sign, you have to give me a photocopy of that. And you have to notarize it. You have to, and they go, I said, well, no. When I go into a place like that for the first time, I am looked at and say, oh, he's a bad person. He knows the rules. I can't oppress him. So around here, I know everybody, so I will go in, I make an appointment. The guy has all the paperwork ready. We go through it. Instead of taking an hour and a half, it takes about 15 minutes. Right? Good to see you, Larry. Okay, Bob. Move on. And that's kind of how bureaucracy should work. when I'm in places where I'm first time there and I'm filling the paperwork out, and they'll give it to me, and I'll just scribble answers, just like this, and I hand it, and they go, I can't even read this. I said, well, obviously you're going to have to help me fill it out. So we'll go through it. So the one place where I always make sure you can read it is where it asks what race I am. And I put human race. I go, no. What, white, black? And I will tell them that I am African American that's melanin challenged. Well, you know what I would say? So Uncle Pugnut says some of the worst people hide behind the banner of Christian. I would say some of the worst people hide behind the banner of Orthodox religion, whatever flavor you want to pick. Right? Look at the Buddhists killing the folks in Asia. I mean, all the Buddhists I were these little guys in robes who wouldn't hurt anybody. I studied at a Hambu. I studied at an ashram. It's belief that was the problem. Now, want to know if a chef's any good? How their mashed potatoes are. And also, so everything here they made, right? So the barbecue sauce they made, cabbage they made, some, the coleslaw they made. So, that's, if they're making everything, they got enough confidence to give it to you. It's usually pretty good. And for me, having no teeth whatsoever, if the food can be masticated easily, like people who make cabbage, they don't spend the time with it. I mean, you've got to boil it down, then add some onions, boil it down, add some of this. Should take about 6 hours. You should have made this yesterday to be served today. Make a big pot of it. Right? Use whatever you need until you put most of it in the fridge. Next day, take half of it, put it in another pot, warm it up. And that's a sign of a good chef. We walked to Syria, not Syria, to Saudi Arabia. Because that's part of it, walking. And what was really fun was that there were like little campsites along the road that you kind of made, this guy made his arrangements for like a travel agent or such. And we walked and came to where we were going to be for the night. You couldn't eat during the day, ate lightly. And the more connected to your spirit, the less you ate. It was to truly be sacrifice. That shouldn't be an easy task. They didn't want you to die. It's not supposed to be that easy of a task. But what I liked the best was the camaraderie, the appreciation of everyone and each other. And the stories everyone told. And so mostly everybody I met, I only caught every third word that everyone was saying. But pretty much the whole experience, I was in state the whole time. Because I was looking at everyone's energetics. I was looking at all the spirits that were around them. My friend wasn't interpreting for me, the spirits were. And he kind of understood where I was coming from because I had known him for a long enough period and he had watched me do things. And that's where I got the nickname Rabbi. People used to call me Rabbi. And in that part of the world, Rabbi was like sensei, just meant teacher. Because I wasn't Muslim, I wasn't their wise man, but I was a wise man. Because their religion came from the Old and New Testament, they understood what rabbi was with that construct, not in the modern Israeli Zionist view. And that's why I suggest you folks, if you can, go to Israel. Really, really interesting. Go to Israel a month or so before Ramadan, and then go from Israel to Saudi Arabia. Through whatever vicarious or some way you gotta go, and measure those two. But go into the deep part of Israel. Talk to every kind of Jew there is, because there are. Every kind of Jew there is there. A Lubavitcher, a Hasidim, Orthodox, you name it, they're there. And you'll find, especially folks who had been there a long time, who had been there in the 50s, but they will be very upset with what's going on in Israel. So, yeah, Saint Germain. So, Uncle Bugnuts, have you read any of the stuff I put on my xrated.com? That's just my stories. I use Saint Germain's teachings as a describer. So, we had the black hat right in the past. Yep. Well, in the early 70s, when I moved to Williamsburg, Brooklyn, my landlord was a rabbi in a rabbinical school. And he used to come over and we would talk theology. And I wanted to learn more and more. about the occult side of Judaism. And that was like part of his speciality. So he got, you'll need to be a rabbi. I said, rabbi, Roman Catholic, Irish, German, Italian. And my godfather's a cardinal. He goes, well, no one's perfect. I got you like a son. It's my school, you're in. Thank you, Rabbi. And that was for some good times. It was 3 years or so. Anyway, so gang, the four of you who are left, let's have some feedback on your idea of the alternative stuff. Because, like I said, the only thing forget all these people. Oh, we need to have sustainable. Forget about it. I met this one guy who I thought would be interesting, who might be willing to be part of the, get it on the bus. And he was, his whole thing was about making websites. He knew the internet. He would have been perfect member for the cadre. And I gave him a ton of stuff. I wanted him to read one thing. And he took everything I had on the Sun drive, like about 90 documents. Well, some people, when I said, just take this one here, he takes them out. Some people might have been a little, but my attitude was, okay, so even if he were to publish this under his name, I couldn't care less, because the more these concepts, theories, stories would get out, the better. So that's why I suggest you, all of you, go to xratted.blogspot.com and read that stuff and proliferate it around the universe. And I don't care who gets the big whoop for it, right? So, anyway, so he was going off to a thing in Asheville, which is like the hipster jungle of the world now. And they were going to a sustainability conference, and he was going to have to drive right by my house to get there, from where he was coming from. I said, come and get me. Let me go. I got friends in Asheville. We can stay places. Well, I'll show you a really good time in Asheville. And as I was talking to him on the phone, he had it on speaker, and his significant other, his wife or whatever, she was talking on her cell phone to people in Asheville about the plans they were making. And I was going on about how sustainable was a waste of time, because you don't want to sustain this civilization. You want to create a new one, an alternative. And then she kind of was listening, got, what are you talking about? No. And I said, well, you're going to the worst place. You're going to a place where no one will do anything. They'll just talk about stuff. She says, well, I'm from Asheville. I've been involved in Asheville. Who are you? Where did you come from? And I said, well, I was there from 91 to 98. She says, well, I got there in 2011. I said, oh, isn't that nice? And I said, well, I was there when it was really kind of cool. I mentioned a whole bunch of people. Said, you knew them? Oh, you knew them? Oh, wow, there's sacred artifacts of those people. Then she got more jealous than anything. And then basically I never heard a word from, because she said, you're not getting any unless you get rid of that guy. But I basically gave her the 411 on sustainability. It's that was a good idea in 1968. It was a potential in 1971. It would have been something good to start in 1980. It was the last gasp in 1988. After that, sorry kids, the ocean has sequestered more carbon in it. And, forget the trees, And look, they're burning. When I went to the Amazon in '88, when I went upriver to live with a tribe of uh, indigenous folk who didn't even have a name, they were waiting for me by the side of the river, and they were wearing grass skirts and bones in their nose, and I looked like Jodie Foster in Contact. I had this kind of like space age suit on that the people sent me there, who were Nazis. I mean, honest to God, Nazis. Go watch. Um, I suggest this to you guys. You need to go to my channel, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. And you need to go first to either Goodwill or Salvation Army or Walmart and get yourself the cheapest dartboard you can. That has numbers on it, right? And then throw darts at it. And whatever number you can string together is the number of the show that you should go and watch. Because every show I do is before I come on air, I go into state and do shamanic ceremony, and I invest shamanic energy into all of these shows. So if you use the dartboard like the Magic 8-Ball and throw darts and get your number and then go to that show, and people go on Gmail, well, what show should I watch? What's the most important show? It's whatever one that you come across that speaks to you, because they're all got their own thing going on. So using a dartboard to find the number would be the best way to go watch the shows. And if you liked it, I offer and ask you to download it onto your hard drive, save it, your top 10, your top 50, your top 100, your top 300, your top 700 shows you like. And show them to other people, share them around, send them off. Because we have to start this conversation of what the alternative aesthetic's going to be. I keep trying to bring this subject around. So what'd you get from Mount Shasta, Bud Nuts? What's his take on what's going on? Gus, again, we are in whiplash zone of world history. And, Jeffy, who died in federal protection, he's the first guy to die that way in that prison. And that's a pretty nasty prison. Huh? And they broke every protocol for him to be able to kill himself. And I don't even think that was him who died. I think it was a homeless guy that they kind of made to look like him, and he's like jet-setted out of town because he had so much dirt on everybody that, they didn't want him to be in court being questioned by lawyers. Anyway, so what we're experiencing right now, like I said, it's whiplash history. And the dynamic of what's going on right now is within any structure, when it changes, you need a disruptor or distraction. And Donnie Chump is exactly that. He's both distraction and disruption. So while he's going on, no one's watching what's going on over here. And if I would bet, I'm not a betting man. I learned never to bet. And because in Little Italy, they used to have the St. Gennaro's and St. Anthony's festivals, which was basically mobster time. They would put the old middle-aged ladies in Las Vegas girly costumes and have them do the numbers, and they make a lot of money. And it'll be right on the street. And you would win, you win, you win, you win. And then when you put up your Benjamin because you thought you couldn't lose, they take it away. And then if you were just like, there'd be like two thugs on either side of you lifting you up, taking you away. And they only, I did that because I had this girl with me. I was trying to press myself because I knew these guys and I thought they'd let me win. But when I put the Benjamin down, she goes, oh, you're going to so brave. And I said, wait a minute. And they picked me up and that's when, Mike said, whoa, put out down. He handed me my Benjamin back. He said, stop trying to show off. Get out of here. So that's why I don't bet anymore. And that's why I don't vote anymore, because they're both fixed. Always, I'm looking at this guy who was, football hero, quarterback, 29. He got, he was the most hired rated guy when he came in off the thing. And he was only there for 9 years, and then he quit. Because he said, NFL, he said something that, the NFL didn't want to hear or have him say, and that was, there are people who play in the NFL who have to play, and then there are people like me who love to play. But it's, it's no more fun. I'm like so beat up by every step I take, I hurt. And I'm only 29, I want to have a brain left. He had gone to school, he went to Stanford, right? He was a smart guy, he had a whole other life to be. He made some money, he can go off and do something. So he decided to do that. And, when he walked out the field, they booed him. So, there's a guy who wanted to define an alternative aesthetic. He got booed. So Uncle Pugnuts, again, what did Mount Shasta have to say? What was his, I'll have to go visit him. What was his, experience like? Peter Mount Shasta. Peter Mount Shasta. Peter Mount Shasta. Oh, there he is. Yeah, look at that guy. He looks pretty cool. He's thin. Peter Mount Shasta is an American author of meditation books. Some of his earliest writings have been referenced in Mount Shasta. Anointed bibliographer by William C. Macy's. He was interviewed by Emily Frank in her book, Mount Shasta, California's Mystic Mountain. Peter Mount Shasta, born 1944, American author. Some of his earliest writings, I have to read some of his earliest writings. I am a teacher of Ascended Master. Okay. A bibliography of Peter Mount Shasta. Ascended Master. Okay. Do. Oh, the I Am teachings of the Ascended Master. He looks like a guy I used to see at Rainbow Gatherings. That's Pete. And I know a lot of older Petes, and they can all look this way. Ram Dass, Baba. Does anyone know Mojo? It's a little Indian guy, brown skinned, has a little collective or cult or ashram up there in the mountains of the west someplace. He has YouTube. He has little places around, some place in Australia, some place over here, some place, and he flies around and he sits in a nice chair and people ask him questions and he gives them answers. And hey, I would like that gig. If somebody wants to set me up in that, I'd love that gig. You know. And what he says is pretty cool. I'm gonna have to read this guy. I'm sure what he has to say is pretty cool. The one place I didn't go at the time of my travels was India. Because all those guys were coming to America. And I had a friend in New York who they all visited her. She had this cute little rent control department down in the West Village off of McDougal Street. Off of, I forget what the name of the little alley was. Yeah, I'm sure I met this guy, Pete. It was interesting when I did my trips to the east. I was pretty much, I was with Don. No, not really. It was later after Don and I split up, but I found out about how to do that with Don when we lived in Sweden. Anyway, I was always by myself because I always wanted to go to that foreign land. And I went with other people. I was always somewhat had to be the guide or the leader or whatever. And I didn't want to be that. I just wanted to be the, artist in the first person and let people bump into me. And if I strike them well, they invited me to be part of their journey, I would join, right? Be happy to. Right? It was like being the naked beggar. But I never quite got to go. The closest I got to India was Iran. And I met like I said, I met a lot of Indians in New York City. Between the United Nations and my friend Howie was so yeah, this guy was cool. Pete looks cool. Looked like he traveled in the right circles. Interesting guy. I'll have to spend some time with that. Books. Let's see what's his books. Adventures. Affirmations. I think I read that book. Yeah, I am Affirmations. Yeah, this guy seems pretty cool. Let's go look at his videos. Okay. What else are we saying here? So, yeah, I just checked Pete. Seems pretty cool. I'm going to have to spend more time with Pete. So, if I was going to put our present day into any movie that's out there, I would say Blade Runner is it. That's where we're at. Like a Coen Brothers movie. Okay. No Blood for the Old Men. Is that one they did? You know, the oil guy's down in the hole. He beats his partner down in the hole. You know, once they struck oil, hit in the head with a rock. He becomes rich. He's like the Koch brothers. He was like Daddy Koch because he really made his money with pipelines. You know, and David Koch just died. I'm sure he got his body put into some form of transhuman. Well, Allen Ginsberg was my roommate in the Lower East Side, and Ron Bass, you know, back when he was Richard Alpert, came to one of our Friday night dinners. So when I was like 16, 17, 18, I was kind of hanging out with that crew in the Lower East Side. And that was, go watch a movie called Across the Universe. And it takes part from like 1964 or 5 to 1973 or 4, those years. And it takes this guy from Northern Ireland, you know, gets on a boat, goes to New York, jumps ship, goes to try to find his father, who thinks is a teacher at Yale, and finds out that he's just a drunk janitor living in the basement. And when he comes out kind of upset, he meets these kids who were rich kids going to Yale, and one of them becomes his best friend, and then it goes from there. And the whole soundtrack of that movie are Beatles music from that period of the 60s and early 70s. Every song is like perfect for what scene is going like this. It's, you know, and she came in through the bathroom window. Well, his girlfriend was running away from a dope dealer and comes through his bathroom window, and then they, you know. Anyway, so go watch that movie. That's a really good movie. And if you watch that movie, you will see exactly what I went through in those years. That's exactly those groups, those everything, you know. So you might even see me there. Oh, look, that's probably Al. Dumber and Dumber. I've definitely been part of that movie for most of my life. I was great at that gig. I never met the Coen brothers, but like I said, I knew Allen Ginsberg. He was my roommate, and you know, I met all of his cadre. You know, they would come to our Friday night dinners, and when I said, you know, basically, you know, when I was working for this electrician, you know, Grandpa Stahl, and I was, you know, that shop was half union, because Grandpa Stowe was one of the guys that started the IBEW, Local 3 of New York. But his shop started before the union, so he did jobs that the unions didn't do. And he went back so far. He had one of the first master electrician's licenses in the United States. He was Nikola Tesla's bench electrician, you know, and he basically trained me to be that. And So the jobs I did for them, I was still going to school. So I would be sent off, and I was going to prep schools. And this one prep school, you go look up the Winchington School for Boys. And our school started mid-September. We only got Christmas off. We went to school 7 days a week. So we got out of school in May. So from May 10th-ish until September 20-something-ish, I had the whole summer off. Now my friends, went all around the world with their rich parents. Me, I kind of worked for Grandpa Small. So that was long enough to do lots of stuff, but not long enough to have a life. Now they kept me on the books because to get a master electrician's license in New York, you needed 16 years of consecutive W-2 forms. So they had me on the book all those years. So anyway, but I got to a place where I was really the only go fix it guy. So they had all these clients that there were all these factories in Soho before it was Soho, and the Lower Manhattan and Brooklyn and Red Hook and Bed-Stuy, all that factories in them. And these were 19th century machines that no one even manufactured anymore. But Grandpa Stoll was the guy who could fix them all. So he showed me how to fix those things, how to fix any electrical device. And he basically said, you have to harmonize with the goings on. That was the little term. And it was true, across the board, you had to harmonize. So I would harmonize and do it. So there was a lot of these machines in Soho before it became Soho. So that's how I met Mike Finelli, who was the grandfather of Little Italy. And he was one of the big wigs of the mob, but he was the diplomat. He didn't back anything up with force. He controlled all the napkins in every restaurant. He controlled, all of the bread. I don't know if you've ever gone to New York City, but they make these amazing yeast rolls. Really, they're like little Italian, it's amazing bread. I don't even know if they make them anymore. And there was a bakery on Spring Street, which was his bakery. Made all the bread for all the restaurants, all the high-end restaurants anyway. And if you wanted a Philadelphia sandwich, with a slice, these, that's because the crust was really crunchy, but everything inside was like a yeast roll. It was amazing. Anyway, so he controlled the bottled liquor. He controlled the delivery of beer. He controlled the delivery of steaks, and he had all of these pressure points, right? And he, I fixed some stuff for him for one of his buildings, and he just really, and Mike Stoll sent me. He goes, here's a guy you need to meet, Mike Finelli. He was Mike Stoll, Grandpa Stoll Sr. This was Mike Finelli. So I went and I fixed this, and I went he had this really great bar on Spring Street, and I forgot to cross where, it wasn't Mercer, could have been Mercer, but Spring Street and whatever. There was a street that went down through Little Italy into Chinatown, all the way down to the Fulton Fish Market. And kind of ran into Water Street, which Water Street, East Broadway kind of became Water Street. Anyway, so I went into his bar, and it was it was a worker's bar, but it was still a really nice bar. And he had different dining rooms for different groups of people. And it was American food rather than Italy because Luna's was just down the street from him. If you wanted Italian food, that's where you went. And that was the edge of where his control was, Luna's. Everything up, so there was the east side, Little Italy, and the west side, Little Italy. And he controlled everything from the northern part of the east side, Little Italy, all the way over to the west side, Little Italy. It was like a squiggly little, came up this road, went across Spring over to 6th Avenue, went up McDougal Street. Anyway, so, That's, and I went and fixed his refrigeration, a few other things. And he says, what I want is I want every one of these tables in this back room to have a push button. And I know they have these things that if this button gets pushed in the kitchen, the number, so the people in the kitchen, the waiters will know which table. So these people, because it was a back room, way back, private, but they, unless the waiters were always going back there, they wouldn't be able to give the kind of service those people, expected, deserved, needed. And so I said, I want you to put a push button that enunciates, because he knew what to call them, enunciators. I said, sure, no problem. And I went and bought, multi-cable and just stapled it along on the backside of the thing and put a push button there. And I did it because I knew there was a company that made enunciators. I went to them. And they were on Worcester Street, and I worked for them. I fixed their machines. And I said, I need, there's 27 tables. I need an enunciator for about 30. And, multi-cable. And so, yeah, here we go. And he loaded me down with his stuff. He said, who should I build this to? I said, Mike Finelli. Oh, Finelli. Oh, take it. So I went and put it in within 2 hours. And that's it. Mike Finelli, I was his boy for a good 20 years. He would break things so I could just come in because he loved to play Go with me. No one could play Go, and I would play Go with me. And he was truly a brilliant guy, smart guy, but he was, one of the major mobsters of New York City. And he was like a patron. He took care of everyone instead of threatening everyone. Right? If anyone had a problem, they came to see him, and he took care of it. Police or this or that or garbage pickup or anything. Somebody's cat making too much noise, he would take care of it. And I never asked him for a favor, and I did everything he wanted me to ever do for him. But that's how I got to know other people. Because I want you to go do some work for some friend of mine. And I would, and so I would be connected to them, and connected to them, and connected to them. And that's how I met this real estate guy who owned a lot of real estate all over the place. And he was smart enough to realize he owned a bunch of buildings downtown in the Wall Street area, like below Chambers Street, where on the east side where the, Fulton Fish Market is, and Brooklyn Bridge, and Chinatown, and Little Italy, they all kind of come together there. And he owned over Water Street, over to Pearl Street, over to Broadway, probably owned 20 buildings that were 10 to 30 stories high, and buildings that were built in the 20s, for the roaring 20s. And he, the really tall ones, he took the tops and turned them into condos, and then took each floor and turned it into private offices. Because most of these buildings, each floor had 20 offices in them, for a lawyer or this or that. And he just, turned them into high-end rental properties. And so he just didn't have property there. He had property in the Lower East Side. He had property in, West Village. He had properties in Midtown. And I would go and figure out what it needed to be changed into what he wanted. I would meet with the architects and kind of give them aesthetic ideas. And I would work with them on their lobbies and exterior of the building. But mostly I would put in the service, put up the risers, and, Grandpa Stoll's union guys would do that. But I would set it up. I'd get everything rolling. And those guys would just come in for a week and do the bing, bang, boom, right? And I would lay it out. I would design it. I would work with the Edison folks. I would get the Edison box in. I would get the meter trough set and get everything ready. But when I brought the union guys in who were expensive, instead of them taking a month, they would do it in a week. So everybody could make money and everybody was happy. And the union guys, I had been part of the union. They loved me. I was still part of the union, still a brother. But I would make their job really easy. I had it all set. They would just go in, hang the stuff. I would have I would get a subcontractor in who would drill holes for all the risers, so they wouldn't have to make mess. It would all be ready. Sometimes I'd even have guys. There's one thing putting in pipe. So I'd have the guys drill the hole, set the pipe, put the Kindorf, strap it down, and from this point to the meter, they would do that. Each spot on each floor they would pull the wire. So instead of taking months, it would take a week. And they would love it. So they didn't have to do any hard work. They could do all the stuff they know how to do really well. And I'd have it all set up. They wouldn't have to deal with Con Ed or inspectors or anybody. They just come in, lay it down, move on. And I did a lot of that for the stalls, laying out jobs. And so anybody wants to hire me as an electrician, I could still do it. I mean, stuff hasn't changed. I really can't get up the ladders. I can barely walk, can hardly see, but I can still run a job. And I get along with everybody, so I make everybody happy. I make everyone profitable. I make everyone super productive. That's kind of what I do. But seemingly, no one wants that, which points to my understanding that we are at this crossroads, And I keep saying, hey, we're in this window of opportunity, and we've gone from 21 months to now we're down to 16 months. And what I'm seeing is this whole thing with America and China and Europe is that, first of all, you've got to realize that American money is worthless. The only reason why the American economy is what it is, it's an illusion because of the petrodollar. And it was the same with England. England was, top dog until 1950 something when they went into, try to take over the Suez Canal, and they were run out, and the pound was stopped being the euro pound, and the American dollar became the euro dollar. Oh, everyone's run away. Okay. Yeah, well, The Simpsons had it as, but the next president is going to be Michael Trump, and not Trump, Mike Pence. And I bet you there's going to be an inside coup before the election where Pence takes over. Or if there's another election, if it's against moron vice president guy, Bush will win. Because what's going to happen is there's going to be a jitsu move where, Donnie is going on, the Chinese want to make a deal. Well, the deal that's going to be made is that China's going to ask, Donnie keeps going, they're cheating us, they're stealing from us, they're lying, blah, 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 blah. For the last whatever, China's been paid off with treasury notes, which are worthless, just paper. We haven't been giving them gold or anything, it's just paper, So that's why no one cared about that, and they wanted China to become the economy that it is today because they wanted the world to be the fascist oligarchy that's coming down the pike. So what's going to happen is China's going to go, okay, here's all our treasury notes. We want to cash them in for gold. America's going to go, become a third world country. And then we're going to have a little war, this time with nukes, and wipe out, maybe a third of the world's population. A little bit here. And it's going to be everybody who wants to get rid of whatever population they want. Somebody's going to drop something in their neighborhood just to, get rid of the people who bug them, right? So that's going to happen across the planet. And it won't be a lot. It'll just be enough to wipe out all those folks who would get in the way of an oligarchy, We already have one, but now it's going to come out to be something like Hunger Games, but not so much. We'll still have Walmarts. So, and that will be between now and 2025, which will increase the speed of whatever climatary craziness is going to happen, and that'll wipe out another third to around another third of the world's population, and it will force what the rich want is that to stick planet Earth into some kind of stasis while they're out there in their like L7 Holiday Inns having a good old time, right? Being eternal with the hegemony of neo-humanism and or transhumanism. And so by 2030, this will be totally like somebody earlier on said, so what's the world like now? And I said, Blade Runner. And so that's kind of where we are. And the only thing that will change this is a spiritual revolution, and not a religious one, not a political one, not a social one, not an economic one, but a spiritual one. And no one's really said anything about it. We've been talking now for 2 hours, 11 minutes, and 32 seconds. So I'm about to go. Thanks for everybody. Go back and watch this again. Again, get yourself a dartboard and start watching these shows, putting them up on there. So Uncle Plugnuts, I think you're the last one here, so you're the last one out. Turn off the lights. I love you guys. Wednesday might be the next time I come on live. Early in the morning, early 10:30-ish. And we'll go from there. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Okay, when it hits 2:12, I'm out of here. So 2, 12, 10, 11, 12. There we go. Sweet dreams, y'all.